Hello, everybody. Everybody all right? Okay, everything looks good. Just gonna do this and do this. And this. Can we take a look outside? Happy, Mr. Bobby? I'll put it like this. Hello, everybody. Pretty much, sun. This time of year, the sun is setting at 8 p.m. And a month from now is going to be setting at 9 p.m. It's pretty much that. Very quiet. Kind of a mix of grayish and blue sky. So I'm just going to go back up in the chat. And if I look tired, I am. I slept about 4 hours last night. Couldn't sleep. And actually got up at like 1 a.m. and started playing games on the laptop because I couldn't sleep. And I went back to bed, and I don't know. It's one of those nights where my it just didn't want to. But apart from that, I'm okay. Went out today, took a walk, and enjoyed A&W chubby chicken sandwich and poutine, onion rings, and all of that. It's really kind of nice. They have a so the way they work. There's a new A&W that is about 2 corner streets. So when I passed by today, I saw that there was a door open with a counter on the side street. So I asked the girl, I said, "Oh, can we order, A&W?" And she said, "Oh, we got to order through the app. And when they call our name, they put the bag with the stuff on the table, and you just pick it up." So I thought, oh, okay. So I installed the app. Great way to have people installing the app, actually. I installed the app and was like next to the restaurant. I just like did the subscribed and everything. And I don't know, 10 minutes later, I had my order. So it's kind of cool because I had not eaten any fast food since confinement because it's kind of difficult at the McDonald's. If you don't have a car, they don't want to give you anything. It's like you got to go to Uber Eats or stuff like that, which I kind of don't like that much, honestly. So I thought, great way to stop eating junk, anyways. But I thought their way of doing it was kind of nice, so indulge in a root beer and junk food, which is actually good because when it's like 2 months you haven't eaten any restaurant food really much. Well, I have eaten pizza, but you know it's not the same thing as the junk food from these places. So it's kind of nice, and so kind of enjoyed my meal there. Here, took a picture actually. I know, I know, taking pictures of our food. So this is the food that I had: root beer, onion rings, chubby chicken sandwich, and poutine. So, anyways, that was the day. So it tells you that it was a hell of a day. So nice to have everybody here. Welcome aboard to the Wednesday edition of the Shortwave Radio Show. This is the show where we talk about radio. It's a show that we have twice a week. Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 0 UTC. Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, 20 hours UTC. And we, of course, have 2 time slots that are different because we try to get different people from actually getting there. So basically, it's kind of cool. And we also have a beautiful chat room here with wonderful people. And if you aren't here, well, or if you miss the chat room, this makes us feel like we're a big gang and having fun. I don't know why I have to sneeze every time I do the live show. I'm allergic to the live show or something. So, by the way, there's a Pirate 6931 upper sideband, Zeke's Attic. I'm listening to it right now. It's a pretty good signal here in Montreal. 6931 upper sideband with some music. So kind of cool. Lots of pirate activity again this week. So Zeke's Attic, 6931 upper sideband. So anyways, like we are always saying, this is the place where we're kind of a gang and having fun. And while all this is over, well, we kind of, okay, we're alone. And, well, there's the Facebook group, official SWL channel is the place to go where you can continue actually sharing and having fun like we have here. And tonight we got a selection of a few questions. And we've got we're going to tune the bands. If anybody is hearing anything unusual, special, or whatever, don't hesitate to let us know what you're listening to, and have everybody try and tune around the frequency ranges. So official SWL channel is where it continues. When this is over, there's still a big gang, and we've just passed the 800 mark, 800 subscriber mark, and it's going up fast. In a month and a half, we're going to be at 1,000. Pretty sure. It's going up real fast. People are really enjoying that place because it's a cool place to be. It's a cool place because everybody respects everybody, and that is the important part of it. There are a few moderators. I'm going to add moderators, by the way, as time goes, because I have to have time for other things. And you guys are kind of the police of all of this. Like there's all of you moderators here that are the police of what's happening here. And you guys do a great job, by the way. And you know what? No exceptions to the rule, and no bull. No, I want to have the cleanest, most beautiful group of respectful people that want to share one thing: the passion for radio, and the hobby of shortwave radio and radio in general. And that's all. I don't want anything else. I don't want to have politics, religion, or any other thing that isn't related. I mean, you could be excited about something and it's totally understandable. And, it's easy to forget because you're there. And once you're there and it rolls and everything, we get, I mean, some of us are kind of getting closer as persons. It's not just that internet thing where there's you guys somewhere and there's me here. And it's like, we've reached a point where a lot of us have reached a status where it's much more intimate in who we are together as a group, and people get in the group, and it's easy to feel welcome because it's a wonderful place and everybody's nice, and we want to keep that. And there's zero tolerance for anything else. I can tell you that, zero. I mean, it can be more zero than zero. It's just impossible for anything else. So of course you got to answer the questions of radio that we ask. A lot of you don't answer that last the question I say, do you agree to obey the rules of the channel? That one I'll let it go. But I don't know. Maybe there's some kind of personal, I don't want to agree to anything on the Facebook group or whatever. It's okay. As long as you look, like you want to be there and have fun, it's okay. I'll let go on that one. But still, we want to keep that place safe. And we have wonderful people. I mean, I look at you guys' posts all the time. I wish I'd had more time to post more stuff and participate more, because also, it's my group, so I need to have some part of it also. But I look at your posts every day and I see everything, and it's just great to see you guys interact and see what you guys are listening to and what you guys are sharing. It's just wonderful. You guys going outside, taking pictures or videos or whatever of a radio moment, a radio event. It's really cool. It's a great place. And that's what our hobby has to be: clean and beautiful. And we are here to have fun. And that's it. Simply it. One last thing about the group, for those that are, there are people from time to time that will, go and say, hey, I got someone that I want to have in the group. And I just want to say one thing. Don't have us, don't kind of ask us for somebody to be in the group. Tell that person to join the group. I mean, come on. If that person cannot make the effort of joining a group, shouldn't be in a group. It's not complicated. Just tell your friend, hey, there's a really good group. I think you're going to have a lot of fun there. You should join that group. Give them the link and let them get into the group. And you know what? It's really not complicated. I mean, come on, make the effort of getting there and asking and joining the group. Okay. I'm not fond of the, well, I think this guy should be in the group. Well, that guy should ask to be in the group. Okay. Let's just be fair. It takes a couple of seconds. It takes a couple seconds, So basically, just don't and never invite people. Let them join by themselves, and that's it. It's all. Okay, please. It's not complicated. Okay. So Pirate on 6931 upper sideband right now with good signal actually here, reaching S8, S9 at peaks. Bobby Burgess, WA5107SWL, Morgan City, Louisiana, USA. Nice to have you here. WOHP1390. Nice to have you here, Rick. W8PRR in Ohio. Chile, Ohio. It's really cold, eh? It's cold here too. It's going to freeze tonight. I mean, we are May 6th. It should be like 18 Celsius. We should be in the upper 60s. And today we were in maybe the lower 60s, but for the rest of the week, even the weekend, we're going to be in the 40s on the weekend. What the hell is that temperature? It's supposed to start looking like summer. I went back into the channel, actually, and I saw a video of 2 or 3 years ago, like May 4th or May 5th, at Perry Island, where it's like 26 Celsius. It's like, in the we're almost at the 80s mark. And I'm like, wow, this is far from being what we are now. And so, I'm trying to get my bike fixed and everything for our for Perry Island, the expedition eventually, because I ain't taking public transit with what's happening right now. But going by bike, I think it's going to be okay. I mean, the parks are open here. It's not like you can't. Actually, there was an interesting weekend because people were complaining. Last weekend was very beautiful in Montreal. We reached the 70-ish mark, around 2021 Celsius. So, of course, what people want to do when they're confined at home, they want to go outside. So people went to the parks, and there were a lot of people complaining, well, there's way too many people in the parks. It can't be possible, and why are they accepting that and so on? But I mean, the cops are looking at social distancing. Cops are actually going to the parks, watching everybody, and they say, you know what? Everybody's pretty civilized and keeping their distance. We don't see a problem in people being in park. They are, in general, pretty respectful. So why not? It's beautiful outside, and they want to go out, and which is something I totally agree on. Totally agree. So let's hope temperatures get better because it's darn cold. Actually, on the Weather Channel, they were saying it's almost historically cold here. Like we've never had such cool and cold weather for this time of year for such a long stretch. William Helms in Florida, where I'm sure it's really not as cold as Montreal. Nice to have you on board. Randall Klontz from Chicago. Nice to have you here. Shitty Pyro 90. Hello there, my friend. The Blind Picker. Nice to have you here, Rob. W0RAB in Connecticut, Blineham. It's nice. John McClure. Nice to have you on board. Crittenden Total 4. KJ7NUX. Nice to have you here. Artist Ali Crafter's Kitchen in Massachusetts. Just finished giving myself my first lockdown haircut. I'm not sure I want to try it. I got a clipper, but I'm not sure I want to try it, honestly. By the way, cheers. I got my vodka orange juice drink. Believe it or not, there's a lot of the beers that aren't in the stores because there's not enough bottles. They were saying that because of the recycling, usually, there's a deposit on the bottles. So when we buy a case of beer, we bring it back to the grocery, and of course, we get a refund for the deposit on each bottle. But now, every grocery store has stopped accepting empty bottles. So what is happening is I've been putting my empty bottles out at the recycling. But that actually what it did is that now it's created a shortage of beer bottles. So a lot of the breweries say we can't operate. We don't have bottles. We don't have enough bottles. And new bottles apparently cost so much that a lot of breweries say, well, we can't afford paying that amount for bottles. So, shortage of beer because of a shortage of bottles, apparently. Dan V, nice to have you here, my friend, from Ohio and AWJZ. Max Edstrong, nice to have you here from Michigan. Rufus Newt from the Laurentian Valley, Ontario. Frank Ireland, nice to have you here from Tampa, Florida. Art Dodd, nice to have you here, my friend. K2ADC in New Jersey. Keegan, nice to have you here. XNADXer in Northwest Arkansas, 78 Fahrenheit and sunny. That's nice. William Moser, nice to have you here. Joe Rodman, Chicago area. Augustin Bernard, nice to have you here from Alberta, Canada. James Farley from New Jersey, nice to have you here. Reference says sleep patterns are crazy. Yeah, sometimes. I don't know. I don't sleep as well. I'm not a guy that's troubled by what's happening. In general, pretty much everything that is happening has, it makes things a little weird. It makes a little change in my social life, but it's not creating a big wave. It's not like I lost my job or I'm out of money or not really. It doesn't. The average, I would say that 85% of my life is pretty much stayed the same. So I was thinking, I'm not sleeping as well, and it could, even though it's not affecting that much, it's really, I don't know, maybe it's still affecting with what's happening around us, Jerry DX, nice to have you here, my friend. William Helms, poutine is fries with cheese curds and gravy sauce. It's French fries with cheese curds and gravy sauce. Matt, MDK2, nice to have you here from Colorado. Jeff Barrett, nice to have you on board, my friend. Sadie Pyro 90 could go for some poutine right now. Brent, nice to have you here from Brockville, Ontario, Canada. Rick says McDonald's here will let you order like that and get a discount. Oh, wow. Brian Penny from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Nice to have you here. William House. Fries and gravy, curds, same as cottage cheese. No, really, it's really think of pieces of cheese, not cottage cheese. It's really pieces, random looking pieces of cheddar cheese, kind of. Jeff Barrett says, since the lockdown, our HOA arranged for food trucks to come to our neighborhood twice a week. Oh, that's nice. Had poutine last night. Cool. That's nice. That was a first. Oh, man. That's cool. You like it? Matt, 6931 Upper Sideband, pretty decent in Denver too. Gaëtan Bellil, salut, bonsoir, bienvenue de Sainte-Sophie. Toujours un plaisir. Nice to have you on board. What else do we have? So the University of 20 is back up. Cool. Bobby Burgess has noted in the Facebook group, I got the RSP 1A and MLA 30. You like it? Nice combination. Works well together. Pettiness Plantation. Nice to have you here. VT Radio. Nice to have you on board. Can't sleep. Blame it on a full moon. Maybe I am a werewolf and I don't know. I try to see if I have traces of mud on my feet or something. Maybe. I must be a werewolf. Oh, God. Do werewolves and vampires have to be careful with COVID-19? That's a good question. John McClure says, darn, no politics. I know. Oh, God. Penny's Plantation says, this channel is packed with information. I'm new to it, waiting on my Texan to arrive. Cool. You're going to have a lot of fun with that. And we're here to help also. So don't forget, we're here to help. Matt. Wow, brick signal on 7400. When did it part? Actually, that pirate, I hear it here also. Very good. Let me zoom in a little bit. Oh, that looks like Mixed Radio International. It's super wide. Yeah, it's super wide. I saw the first, as Brian Penny, I think, told me about 7400 was yesterday or the day before. And it was the first time that I saw the pirate. You guys that have not been listening for a long time, remember that the pirate band, the first real popular pirate band, was around 7400 kilohertz. It was 7425, 74, around 7415. That was the first pirate band that was popular. But what happens is the solar activity came down. And as solar activity started to get lower, the higher bands were not propagating as well. So they started going down. So 6900 kilohertz, 6925, 6955, 6950. These frequencies became more popular. And now even lower. We've got 4 and 5 megahertz pirates, which was something we didn't see, 5-6 years ago. Pretty crazy. Gaetan Belil is listening to the Voice of Vietnam, 7315. That's a good one. That's usually is very strong from transmitted from WHRI. Sephiroth 86, nice to have you on board from Germany. Nice to have you on board from Germany. Max M, glad to be here for the live. Where are you located, Max M? Matt says we have to ban someone for inviting literally hundreds of his friends. Naturally, none of them seemed aware that happened. They didn't answer. He kept it up after we asked him to stop. There's always and will always be these idiots out there that have no life, unfortunately. What else? Matt says I'm on the IC7100, so no waterfall, but it sounds fat. Oh yeah, it's really large. Here it goes from. I've just zoomed in on the SDR, and I can see the signal from 7400 kilohertz all the way up to 7407. It's like a big, really wide 7 kilohertz upper sideband signal. This is crazy. I actually took the audio filter and extended. I'm 6 kilohertz wide right now. I mean, this is amazing. This guy is amazing. So, what else do we have? Penis Plantation. Is there much going on in the Facebook group? A lot. I mean, people are sharing what they're listening to. They're sharing really, really a lot of information about shortwave, people asking questions, people answering the questions. There's really a lot of activity on the group. Hi, Brawler. Nice to have you here from Arkansas. YB0NSI from Jakarta, Indonesia. Nice to have you here. This is cool. George Gregoriou. Nice to have you here from New York, George. Pretty cool. Rufus Newt says possible snow here in the next 3 days. Whoa. Sorry, guys. I'm just absorbed by the pirate on 7400 upper sideband. Crazy. Max M from Germany. I love your videos. Want to start with radio technology. Cool. You're at the right place, my friend. Matt says Denver is having spring weather in May for a change. Wow. Penniless Plantation. I know there's a lot of information, but you got to take it one step at a time. One step at a time. Mitch, nice to have you here, Mitch, from Buckeye, Arizona. It 106 today. That's too hot for me, though. I want to have warm weather, but not 106. 786 says switch to the MLA 30 Plus as you advise. If I turn them in the right way, I can listen to Supreme Leader of North Korea. Cool. Russ Gladden, nice to have you here from Ottawa. Salut. Rufus Newton, Ontario cans have a 10-cent deposit per can. Impossible to bring them back without a huge hassle. Same here. It's, here the beer bottles are 10 cents of deposit. Nobody wants them. Imad Abbas, bonjour. Nice to have you here. Levi Nathan from Israel, 4Z1008 SWL. Nice to have you on board. Dear Forestry, l'homme doit oublier sa colère avant de se coucher pour dormir. Oh, man. No, I don't really have... I don't really have any rant against anybody. I usually sleep really well. It's just kind of a temporary thing or something. Keegan says, "Oh, I remember. Think of the bottle deposit episode. Oh yeah, when they take a what the episode they take a U.S. post office truck and fill it up with bottles. Oh man, trying to make money." John Doe. Jill, how the hell do you pick up 12160 WWCR during the day? Alex Jones. I can never hear that signal. I much prefer to hear that rather than Brothers Care. Yeah, it depends if you're closer to me, to the station to me. For me, 12160, so WWCR, pretty much all frequencies of WWCR from Tennessee come in very well in Montreal. 12160 is usually a very strong one in the daytime with the Alex Jones show. And almost the only frequency that sometimes is a little hard to get from WWCR in Montreal is 15825. 15825. That one's a little hard to get from time to time, but most of the time, I mean, 12160 is a really good one here. Randy, Riverside, California. Nice to have you here, my friend. What else do we have? Shitty Power 11670 AM distorted. Yeah, Radio Vanik Cuba, that one, I believe, and they are distorted a lot. Rufus Newt, I always thought this channel was radio. Now I have damn craving for poutine. Can a cheese curd be used as a detector? The first guy to make poutine radio. Well, while I'm heating, every time I take a French fry, the frequency changes, and I'm tuning shortwave. That sounds weird. Mika Dalmage, nice to have you here, my friend, from Sherwood Park, Alberta, Canada. And he says 7400 looks closer to 7401 out here. Fair signal. It's definitely from 7400 here, honestly. But it's all the way up to 7407 easily. PU3HAJ. Nice to have you here. H. Garcia from Brazil. Can you share your thoughts on antenna noise canceling units like MFJ 1026, ANC4, and so on? As SDRplay Pro also includes it, called diversity mode. So I read last month there was actually an article of I think it was the MFJ 1026 in Spectrum Monitor. They actually tested the device, and it's kind of interesting. So the device, the guy used the device. What he did is he actually plugged two long wires on the device. He seems to say so. In general, what he seems to say is that if you put there's the device comes, I think, with like a telescopic or something. If you use it in that way with the telescopic, it's useless. But if it is set up with like two long wires, for example, or he's got like a long wire in the loop or something in his setup, he said that he has some success in getting signals in. And the success has to do with, so there's knobs where you can phase signals at like 90-degree angles. He says that when you use that capability within that device, that there's somewhat an improvement. But like he says, it's not a miracle device. It's not, and it's not for everybody or every type of noise that you'll have outside detected. Because what that thing does basically is look at the general electronic noise in RF, the regular signals in RF, and it kind of, by analyzing that noise, kind of tries to shift it in a different way so that it's not as present on your signal you're trying to get. And so the other side of that type of device that I've seen is that it seems to be a hit or miss, because what I see is, so that guy, the review is kind of interesting. It actually, it made me really interested, because I thought, well, that probably would be a really nice thing to get and try out here, for sure. So that's something I should actually think about getting. Now, um, I've read many, many reviews over time with these devices. It goes from people really happy and it works great to people being kind of, well, this thing doesn't work. It doesn't do a thing at all. I think it depends on several factors. It depends on the type of noise that you're trying to eliminate, but it also depends on what are you expecting, actually. I go back, a very simple example. I go back to the DSP-40, little DSP-40 that you guys have seen in a lot of my videos, which is the little DSP, the first DSP the Realistic Radio Shack released, which is far from being what the 1026 is. That's a much more advanced device. But you look at the comments, and the comments go from that thing is amazing to that thing is crap. And I think it's all dependent on what exactly are you expecting from that thing, and what type of noise are you trying to eliminate. The DSP-40, as an example, works great for certain specific things. Just for the notch filter, the auto notch that can remove, tones, several tones at the same time. That's fantastic. The filters are audio, but you know what? They work well, and they do improve some of the signal stuff. DSP, set right, sometimes on single sideband signals can improve somewhat, but come on. I mean, that thing was $100 back then. We're talking of DSP from 1990s. For sure, that thing cannot perform like today. I mean, today's computers analyze that much better. But it's a mixed bag. Some people are happy, some people are not, and I think it really depends on the type of noise you've got around you. Honestly, what else do we have? What else do we have? John McClure started watching Charlie Chaplin. My favorite is City Lights, 1931. Wow, I haven't seen a Charlie Chaplin movie in years. Rick WOHB 1390 says, saw your video on WeFax on FLDG that downloaded. Will take a month to get it set up right. Yeah, I need. There are. If you search FLDG on my channel, you will see some. I already have some videos on how to set it up and decode several types of digital modes. I guess I would probably need to redo these videos today. I mean, I'm much more popular today. Maybe there's a lot of people would be happy, to get that. Brent, an update on your new loop antenna? Nope, no updates. Actually, it's kind of weird what's happening in China right now. I'm not used to that. So I've got several packages from eBay. They all have the tracking of, all the manipulation and all the stuff that happened to a certain point. And at a certain date, there's no more info. You're like, okay, no info about anything since that date. And when I take that tracking number, because they used regular post, that means at some point, Canada Post should have the tracking info in the database, and you could see where it is. When I enter the antenna's tracking number, Canada Post says, I got nothing, which means it's still not arrived in Canada. It's as if it's still in China, stuck, waiting to get shipped. It's like in the box, everything is ready. It's just not yet in whatever, the boat or the plane or whatever they are sending it with. Probably a plane. I think it says express pack or something. But I mean, something is quite not right yet with Chinese packages, from what I see. So I don't know. Every day I see the Canada Post truck, and I'm hoping that he's going to ring the doorbell and bring in that antenna, because I want to test it out. I'm really, really anxious to try it out. So, Penniless Plantation, the group. So I'm going to post. I don't know if anybody did it already, but I'm going to post the Facebook group link on the chat. And here we go. Official SWL channel. We are right now at 817 members, which is nice. Don't forget to answer the radio question. So Nissan Greenwich approved, and Steve Stankus approved. Here we go. 2 more members now. And here is the link in the chat room for the Facebook group. Remember, behave, because we are not accepting anything out of the ordinary. Jeff Barrett, 6931, blasting into Southwest Ohio, like 700 WLW. Cool. James Farley, 7400 S9 plus 20 dB. Pretty strong here, too. It's so wide. I'm amazed at how wide that thing is. There's Alec Crafter's Kitchen, says Joel and the group. Oops, I lost my little place here. Any suggestions on where I should look for a Yaesu FRG7 other than eBay? This has been my year of dying radios. My first Satellite 800, now my Frog. The two things I would look at, honestly, if you want it at a decent price, if you ever hear of so right now there probably aren't any Hamfests anywhere, but when things come back to normal, Hamfests are really an amazing place where there's a lot, because the Yaesu FRG7, there are tons of them out there, tons of them. It's like one of those radios that sold so many copies that there are tons of them out there. Fastla that you guys see in the chat room, I got one last year, like for $75 at a Hamfest. So that's the best place. You know what? One surprising place for radios is local classified ads. Look at the classified ads that you have locally on the different websites, like Craigslist and so on. It's very surprising the amount of radios that pop up there. And a lot of them are at decent price compared to eBay. I mean, eBay for used radios is crazy. I don't know what people think, but no, come on, there's a limit to what you're going to pay for a used receiver. Frank Ireland's got an SDR RSP1A on the way from HRO, cool, and an MLA 30 Plus from China. This is great. You're going to have a lot of fun. Tom DXer from the Lower Hudson Valley, New York. Nice to have you here. Pretty cool. Zachary Antle, is Patine good? Yes, it is. It's pretty good, actually. A real good one, though. We make some really amazing one here. Keegan says, Seinfeld episode, the bottle deposit. Newman says, hey, we got 10,000 deposit bottles here. I mean, this guy could be going to Arkansas. Crazy. Jeff Barrett, 7400, playing Soulful Strut by George Benson, +9 into Southwest Ohio. Bill Needham, nice to have you here, K1WN. Whole Radio Man, 7345, DRM, Radio Marti, getting the text, but not much audio. It's same here. When I try to decode DRM, I see the info. You know what station it is. I get, hey, Radio Romania. Yeah. Can I have something to listen to? I just see the text. And, Radio Marti, I'm kind of a little, I'm wondering, what the hell is that? Nobody in Cuba is listening to DRM. Come on. What's that? What the hell are you doing? DRM to Cuba. And by the way, guys, Radio Marti has really lowered its demand for the Greenville, North Carolina transmitter site. And there's rumor that the Greenville transmitter site might be shutting down soon, which means that, will there be any other place in the US where VOA can transmit from the mainland USA? It's going to be, Greenville is going to be almost unused. Very little transmissions with that happening, which is kind of interesting. Kema Hain, nice to have you here from Yokohama, Japan. Desmond Green, what the hell are you talking about? John Doe, what frequency is the Pirate on? So there's 6931 upper sideband and 7400 upper sideband. Well, it depends where you're using a John Doe. If you're using an SDR from the Kiwi SDR list, if you are in, that's your place. It's okay. There's no you don't have to ask. Online SDRs, the Kiwi SDRs particularly, can have 4 to 8 people at the same time tuning. If you're using the U20 SDR, it's hundreds of people that can tune at the same time. You don't have to ask anything or anybody for that. If you're on the other website, which is the oh man, I forgot the name now. If you're on the receiver site, oh man, what the hell? I got a blank here. Anyways, that one is one per person. Global Tuners. Here we go. Global Tuners. These are regular radios, so it's only one user per radio. And usually you see the list of people listening, or if somebody's listening, and there's a little chat that you can actually politely just say, "Can I tune this radio?" Or I believe there's even a question that you can just click on. Can I tune? Usually the person's going to say, yeah, sure, go ahead. Or if he doesn't answer after 10 minutes, just go ahead. But if you're using Kiwi SDRs online around the world or U20, there's no asking. You have if there would be too many people tuning in, you would not be getting in. And when you tune the radio, you're only tuning that frequency. The others are tuning other frequencies. The Kiwi SDRs have that capability of actually tuning different frequencies at the same time. So you don't have to ask anything. Estrella Garcia, nice to have you here, my friend. William Moser, I have a question. Why are the same NDB the same on 2 or more station and far apart from each other? Why are the same non-directional beacons the same on 2 or more station and far apart from each other? Or are they different? I'm not sure. So I'll guess what you're trying to say here. So, for example, the local airport here as 2 non-directional beacons positioned differently. So the non-directional beacons are an old way, still used somehow. So Desmond Green, hello, 68 CTO 22. Nice to have you here. So they are positioned differently, have a different ID, but they are used by airplanes, probably a lot less today, but still maybe used for the approach system. So the plane locks into the non-directional beacon in order to kind of know its position to get into, for example, a landing strip on the airport. So they know how to. The plane knows how to where the landing is by using it's kind of a triangulation, if you want, of the non-directional beacon. So some big airports might have more than one non-directional beacon for that purpose, depending on how big it is. Most smaller airports have only one, but big airports might have more than one. Like here at Montreal, the Montreal International Airport has, I believe, 2 of them. And there's one in Mirabel also. Matt says, if you're speaking of the noise cancelers like ANC TimeWave, I saw a really interesting video about those. It's all in getting the antenna for the noise just right. I think that's pretty much it for sure. Because the guy that used it and talked about it in the Spectrum Monitor really, it's a very complex thing. Sepirod86 says, I did have the MSJ 1024, sent it back there and work on the PL880. You know what? The other thing about that is also because one of the biggest problems with these devices also, a lot of us are using portable radios, and a lot of these devices are made and thought of for tabletop receivers. Because I mean, that thing costs as much, if not more, than the PL 880. So they're not always necessarily made for portables, and it's a very complex thing. Using these is a complex operation, and you could see it in that article. I was reading it because I was interested in understanding more about those things. It's really, really, and it seems extremely sensitive to the way that you set up everything. And if it's not set up right, it doesn't do anything or it doesn't work well. City Lights, nice to have you here. Steve Edwards, got Alec Crafters S96. Cool. Frank Ireland, does the SDR Players P1A include any cables or accessories, or do you get the SDR box? You get an SDR box. You got to get everything that you need with it. It's really it's not different than any radio. What do you get when you buy a big gun radio? You get a radio. Nothing more. Refus News says, have several packages caught up since March. Yeah, pretty much same here. Terry Cook, KF7BQ. Nice to have you here. What else do we have? Let me go down. William Helms says, behind the building I live in is a 200-foot rail, 4 feet high, bearing off duck pond. Rolled up 30 foot of Tesla bifiller coil with a 2-inch center stuck into the end of it, and it works. It's, this is the amazing thing about radio and just enjoying and having fun with antennas and radio is just the testing of all sorts of different things. I mean, I remember when I started, I would, I always been a big fan of alligator clips. I mean, everywhere I look, there's alligator clips. Here, the proof. Alligator clips. But when I was starting out in radio, one of the things I often did was just clip my radio's antenna to whatever. I remember putting 120 feet of wire that went over the house where I lived when I was young, when I was a teenager. And it went down to the ground, almost to the ground, to the fence. There was a fence in the backyard with a metal railing. And that fence with the metal railing was even in a neighbor's yard going very far. It was like at least 50, 60 feet wide or long, meaning, with the neighbor's backyard on each side. I remember one thing that I did once. I had a crystal radio. And I took one of these little clips like this, and I clipped it to the railing. I think it was the best experience ever, and how many stations I could actually receive on the crystal radio. Actually, it was so intense that I actually had a overloading crystal radio. It was like, it was crazy. And I remember I had 120 feet, and I would run down because I always lived up. So, I lived in the 3rd floor there too. And I remember I would run down, clip the antenna to the railing, run up, look at the radio, my DX302, see if the signal had changed. Was it better? Was it worse? Then I run down, unclip it, run back up. And maybe that's why I'm in shape. And I would look at the S meter. Is the signal better? Was not better? It's like, it was the fun part of testing everything. It was the fun part of just, okay, if I clip it here, what does it do? Does that work? And, technically the railing was grounded because the railing every 12 feet had a part of the railing would go down to the ground. So technically that railing would go down to the ground. I remember when I had a big surplus Army shortwave radio. Man, I regret throwing that thing away. When it blew up, I just like didn't know what to do, and I should never let that thing go. And of course, big tube radio from the 40s, 50s. It's like that thing is hot. And what I mean by that is it's not just warm because there's a lot of tubes. If you touch that and you touch the wrong thing, you can electrocute yourself pretty much. And I remember I had, so my brother played golf. And I remember my brother had a broken golf club one day. And I looked at him and I said, can I have a golf club? And he's looking at me, he's like strange. And like, since when are you interested in some form of golf? And it's like, I'm not, but that is broken. And I think I can actually put it in the ground and make myself a ground with using your golf club. And he's like, you're going to use my golf club for your radio noise stuff. I said, yeah, absolutely. And you guys would have laughed your head off. So there was a little, there's a little tree down, and it was always, that's where I actually put the rod, the golf club, because it was always humid. It was like always in the shade. So the ground was always kind of humid. And I would plug the wire there, plug it on the ground terminal of my radio, and I would look at the radio and see if it improves anything. And I remember I didn't see any difference. And I had read somewhere that it had to be like moist, and I would I would take my my mother's my mother's pot that she would use to actually water the plants in the home, and I would water my my golf club in the ground. I would go down and water the golf club, and I would go up and look at the S meter and whatever, and it's like, no, there's nothing. But one thing I learned: don't take that ground wire and touch the big Army tube radio, because you're gonna get zapped. And I got zapped at least twice doing that. Like holding I always have this, like, instead of holding the wire, I would always hold the clip, and I would like touch the radio, and I would get zapped every time. It was like, okay, what the hell is this? So, anyways, that's some of the funny parts of you don't understand what you're doing, and you're just trying whatever to see if it changes anything. Roger Schultz, KE4BFJ, nice to have you here. Joseph Eggenbaum, nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Chuck CP Davis, nice to have you here. Here we have a really, somebody called the police for you listening to your shortwave radio, man. Here we have a case of nut jobs now that are actually putting our 5G antennas on fire. 4 antennas were put on fire in the last 2 weeks by these nut jobs that think that 5G and coronavirus go together. Pretty crazy. Joe Summerlin US, nice to have you here from Brazil. Pretty cool to have you here. Keegan has nighttime tropo opening in Arkansas. Cool. Somebody was saying, I'm going to try it. Somebody was mentioning that was Chris Smolinski on HF Underground that was mentioning that he had some opening on 11 meters, and now it seems to be quiet here. That's kind of interesting. Huh. Kind of interesting. Frank Ireland, my MLA 30 plus tracking shows import customs clearance completed, United States of America. Cool. No updates since. We're what? Yeah, but I mean, we're what, 6 today? I'm gonna have it tomorrow or Friday. Early next week at the latest. Bill Needham says estate sales. Yeah, sometimes they do have a lot of radios and stuff. No, there's not going to be any AmFest this year. I don't think so either. It's going to be crazy. Graham Taplin, nice to have you here, Graham, says the K180 antenna is shown on as April 29 handling to Canada Post from Customs, but nothing since. Yeah, maybe they're going to check it out. Sebirot says the MLA 30 Plus makes really a lot of fun. Cool. Yeah, local hand clubs do sell stuff. Check the hand clubs also. Absolutely. Roger Schultz says, thank you for the great videos. Thank you very much. Matt says, oh man, not Greenville. Yeah. Yeah. And Radio Marti has lowered by 80% its broadcasts. So if you see that Radio Marti isn't there most of the time on many frequencies, they are lowering a lot of their broadcast times, which means that there's going to be a lot of times when Greenville is not going to be used. But Radio Marti is lowering by like 80% the amount of transmissions, which means Greenville is not going to be like so little used that, I saw that post on the shortwave listening post a few days ago. Rufus Newt, 130 people watched the show, only 28 likes. What's wrong with that? Yeah, what's wrong with you people? Come on. Like. Andy Packrat, nice to have you here, my friend, from South Bend, Indiana. And he says the pirate flag is such a good background for you. I know, it's perfect. Pirate flag. It is. Oh man, Brother Stare, hostile takeover Greenville. He's going to buy Greenville, and we're going to have 24 hours of Brother Stare on VOA frequencies. Matt says, I wouldn't mind seeing Radio Marti Shudder, though. The quality of their programming has been shown to be well below that of it. Yeah, it's very... it's not, we're not going to talk too much about Radio Marti. Steve, 94044, nice to have you here from San Francisco. Mickey Dalmage, 7400 upper sideband, lots of jazz music. Yeah, there was British accents. That's what I saw. Rick says, wish you didn't overlap with Ham Nation. Yeah, and they are on WTWW. They should be on, I think, now. 05085. Yep. Ham Nation, 5085.
Changing the genetic code.
So Ham Nation on WTWW 5085. Pretty good signal here tonight. S9 plus 20 at times. Oh, man. What else do we have? PU3HAJ says, why are several non-directional beacons on the same frequency? National Authority may need to assign to 2 or more non-directional beacon to the same frequency for if the band is already too busy. So kind of interesting. Steve says, I listened on shortwave with a Seagrain Skywave and 100 feet of telephone Jumper wire stretched across the roof of my house works great. Cool. You know, this is the important thing there is to have, it's the amount of noise. I mean, I always say it and I will say it again. If you live in a quiet place, the only thing you need is a wire antenna. You don't need any fancy shancy antenna. Wire, put 50 feet, 60 feet, 100 feet of wire outdoors. If it's quiet, you got the best antenna already. And I got a few people that came back to me. There was one guy that was very interesting, and I never really talked about his email. I don't know, some like 4 months ago, some before Christmas. I remember it's before Christmas. The guy lives in a basically lives in like in the middle of the forest almost. He lives in a very small town, but he lives on the fringe of town, really on the edge of the town. And he says that his next door neighbor is really far away. He's got zero noise, and he's got like 200 feet of wire outside. And he kind of understood that the MLA 30 antenna would be better for shortwave, so he bought one. And he came up to me in an email and said, I bought that MLA 30. It's not really good. And I said, well, what are you using as a antenna to compare? And he starts telling me his details. And it's like, of course, no. I will tell you, if it's quiet where you are and you got 200 feet of wire out there, don't buy an MLA 30. You're going to waste your money. Of course, the MLA 30 is not as good as that. If it's super quiet where you are, that 200 feet of wire gets so much more signal. It's for a very specific audience, which is, I think, the majority of the audience, meaning that a lot of us live in big cities. A lot of us live in cities or in areas with a lot of noise because of all the electronics around us. That's where the MLA 30 works amazingly well because it lowers somewhat the noise that we have, and it gives us the possibility to listen to signals. And that's what's happening here. The MLA 30 here is almost magic because it brings signals out of that noise that my sloper doesn't. And I'm happy because I hear things I didn't hear. But if I look at my sloper, so, if I put the sloper back, what I see is that the sloper gets that signal as well, if not better. But the problem is it gets the noise around it also. So it's almost unusable. But if I had a quiet environment, my sloper would possibly be either equal, if not better, than the MLA 30. And that's what you need to know. That's why I always say the MLA 30 isn't a miracle antenna, but it helps in many circumstances, Keegan has reception tonight with his Ethon Grenic Edition Field BT radio and his Ethon Grenic Edition satellite radio with SSB. Brent, Jill says, funny you mentioned connecting to a railing. I did a D expedition where I connected my PL660 to a 700 meter steel guardrail. Heard amazing distance stations, some overload, but not bad. It's surprising when we try stuff what we can actually hear. I always say, when somebody tells me, oh, well, I got a metal gutter around the house or whatever, and I'm like, and you get the question is like, what would happen if I would clip my antenna to it? And sometimes it is surprising what you will get. It's really, really amazing sometimes. You got to try it. You just got to try it. Clip to it and see what happens. You might be in an area where you got the most amazing antenna ever around you that you just don't realize. So, as a very curious kid, what I would do is I would clip to every metal thing that I saw everywhere. So the fence, the gutter, whatever metal thing I saw. I mean, I remember looking at the looking at the patio door and seeing that all around there was like aluminum, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to clip to that. Maybe he's going to do something." I would clip to every metal thing I would see and look at the result because it was, I just wanted to see, could that thing be better than whatever I'm using? I remember I would go to the electronics store around here, Addison's, which is back then was even more fun because it had a lot more, really electronic gadget and circuit boards and stuff. It was crazy. They had a whole, like, I think they had 30 or 40 boxes full of telescopic antennas of different lengths. I remember because I love to do, like all sorts of weird things. My neighbors probably thought I was like, a nut or whatever. It was like, what the hell is that? I would buy different sizes of telescopics, put them outside, would plug in, see, could a telescopic be better than any other thing? I remember putting a telescopic antenna horizontal, and I had purchased that day just for the fun because I would buy electronic stuff for the fun of it. I remember buying a motor, setting up the motor with a battery, and I would that telescopic was, I don't know, maybe 2 feet, 3 feet long max. It would bend, like at the end it would like bend like this because it's not meant to be horizontal. It's supposed to be telescopic vertical. And I would put it on the motor. I would press a button on my desk because I had all the wires hooked up with the battery and all. When I would press the motor would make like a rotor, so the motor would make my antenna rotate, and I would look at signals on my radio and see try to see if does it make a difference. Can I kind of focus the antenna to a signal or something? The guy that doesn't understand whatever he's doing, but he just wants to try, and he just wants to try so many things. That was me. So imagine the neighbors looking at that. I remember my downstairs neighbor. I had set up a wire on a metal frame that was aluminum, but it was very thin. So when it was very windy, the antenna would like go like this all the time, But it was there for like, months, and it was always okay. And then one day we got some really strong winds. And I remember it knocks on the door, and the neighbor downstairs says, Gilles, I think your antenna's like dangling down. And I look down, and it's hanging by the coax and just going, from side to side, like really crazy. And it's like, oops, I'm sorry. Brian, very nice to have you here from Thunder Bay. Estrella Garcia, nice to have you here. What else do we have? Oh yeah, live chassis. That was crazy. Steve 94044. I could hear ham radio operators on 40 meters in Japan late at night with my 100 feet of wire from San Francisco. Really worked well. Cool. John Doe, 7400 Pirate S8. Way cool. Kimberly, nice to have you here from California. Pretty cool. K6YYL, 100 Fahrenheit. Man, that is too hot. Mike, WDX50, nice to have you on board from Arkansas. What else do we have? Bands PH, nice to have you here from the Philippines. Geely, nice to have you here from Fresno, California. WA6120 SWL. Fastload, nice to have you on board from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. That weird city, there's weird people doing live shows on the internet. Pancon Manjar. What else do we have? Fastload got Oman on FT4 this week. Cool. That's nice. Kimberly says been making some 6-meter SSB contacts. Meteor scatter. Oh, wow. This is cool. Oh, man, that old Grundig receiving digital ones. It would need that SSB module to work. PU3HAG, question to everyone. Any experience with small loops on the horizontal? Medium wave ferrite antennas are also loops, but whenever my medium wave receiver has its windings on horizontal, all stations go weak. So my MLA30, I got the MLA30 Plus and MLA30 Original. My MLA30 Original is actually horizontal. And what's interesting with it is that it is, since I put it horizontal, it actually receives much better above 10, 11 megahertz than the other MLA30. And the other MLA30 receives better below 10 megahertz, which is kind of interesting. It might be more of a noise thing than anything else, but it's kind of interesting. Steve in Australia, nice to have you on board. Fastload dipole has during more gain than MLA30. Absolutely. You know, we would not need, even here, I would not need an MLA30 if there was just no noise. The MLA30 helps because of the noise. But the sloper or any other antenna I have in the backyard that I could put up would probably beat or at least be equal. Kim Ahane, I can hear nothing without using an MLA30 long wire dipole whip, all the way too noisy. That's the thing. That's the difference. The MLA30 and any loops, any magnetic loop antennas help kind of, remove some of that noise. Jean-Marc Letz, bonjour et bienvenue de Strasbourg en France. Nice to have you on board, my friend. So, Rufus Newt, my MLA30 complements my long wire quite well, and I'm low noise. So, Kimberly, I'm going to load up our gazebo one day. It might surprise me. I know a ham that loaded his gazebo for up to 10 meters, and it worked on it. That's interesting. That's kind of, Penniless Plantation. I have 20 acres of farmland in central Kentucky. With 600 feet of field fence make a good antenna. I'd probably have to ground it, though. For very low frequencies, honestly, because the longer the wire, the longer the antenna that you make, the lower the frequencies is going to work well on. We did say, somebody had asked that question, is there a too long of an antenna? And yes, there could be too long of an antenna, depending on the frequency you're tuning. That 600 feet on 10 meters is way too long. But 600 feet on long wave, you could hear stuff that is amazing from Europe, even medium wave. Rufus Newt, Addison's was great. Yes, it was. It's still okay, but it's not the same. Keegan, Friday 1st Hertz FM stations from Houston, Texas. One is NPR station KUHF 88.7 in Corpus Christi, Texas. Wow, that's cool. Here the bands are so crowded with FM signals, it's kind of impossible to really DX anything in Montreal. Stephen Wood, nice to have you here. What else do we have? $6065. $6065. I'm hearing something like the Holy Quran or something. 6065. That's kind of interesting. Oh, it's Iran. No, it's not. What is that? And there's nothing on 6065 here. That really 6065 sounds like the Holy Quran. So could it be a new transmission from, I don't know. That's interesting. It's not written here on the lists, but I hear it quite well. I hear 6065 well enough to hear the Holy Quran. Funny thing is that CFRX 6070 is more of a threat for me than Cuba on 6060. But it's definitely the Holy Quran on 6065 that I can listen here. Arndad, I think, Joe, the best thing for shortwave listening antenna is a basic loop antenna. Obviously, some of your viewers may be in high noise or apartments. Oh, yeah, apartments and stuff. But even a small loop in a room will lower noise. So I've seen a lot of people with that are actually with passive loops and seem to have amazing results. Yeah, you should fast load. Do a video. So let's go down here. See if anybody else. So I'm about 7 minutes behind now, guys. Our dot says, even though the S reading would be marginal, the quality of the signal should be better with the lower noise floor. Absolutely. Comex Z1976, nice to have you here. Posted this on the Facebook group last night. I swore I heard the Cuban number lady on 20 megahertz. Is that possible? Yeah, I saw your post, but I think you probably, what time was it? I wonder if it was not the fact that at that time it was so strong. So what time was it and what receiver were you using? Because I think there is a definite possibility that it was overloading. Because I mean, I've seen I've read a lot about Glenn Hauser talking about a lot of harmonics coming out of our radio or Havana, Cuba, and Cuban number station that are everywhere on the shortwave bands. But if you heard it overlapping WWV 20 megahertz, I suspect that it was, maybe it was that 17. There's the one on 17480. If that one was really strong where you live, maybe it actually just overloaded with WWV. It kind of mixed in. Kind of interesting here. What else do we have? Reference Newt, my MLA 30 is at the 45 degrees from horizontal, works great. Coming Z76, I was using SDR console, but when I switched to SDR Uno, I just heard WWV. It could be a mixing product of the. It could be a mixing product of the low frequency used in SDR console that was not or the RF gain. Maybe the RF gain in the SDR console was stronger, and it made for an overload. Imad Abbas, any news about the new Texan receivers? Not before fall. Not before fall for sure. Rob, nice to have you here from Phoenix, Arizona. Keegan, 5085 WTWW S7 out of S9. Shady Pyro got a QSL card from Radio Toronto. Woohoo! That is cool. That is cool. Frank Carolyn, who is the Cuban numbers lady that you're talking about? It's called HM01. It's one of the spy number stations that are on the shortwave frequency bands. So it has several broadcasts every day where you can actually tune in and hear the Cuban number station give out numbers. Now, you're living very close to Cuba, so you might not hear it very well because it might be propagating over you, but it's heard widely in a big chunk of North America. So I actually heard the number lady by accident because I don't follow the HM01 stuff. And by accident, I was hearing the Cuban number the other day, like 2-3 days ago. So it's a spy number station from Cuba. RSP1A. Yeah, the RSP1A, you got to be careful with one thing about the RSP1A. And the RSPDX also has the same flaw, and it depends on the local oscillator frequency that you're using. Sometimes using the wrong local oscillator frequency will have a signal from a frequency heard on another frequency. It happens from time to time. So that's what happened. And so you probably had a really strong signal from HM01. It mixed in with WWV because of the software you were using. Ray Carlisi says, I remember years back, Pirates broadcasting on or around 7419, but none anymore that I can hear. Wondering if there has been any action there recently. Well, tonight we heard one on 7400 upper sideband. And there's not a lot of activity on that frequency range, which was, frankly, 7400, 7500. That range was kind of the first real active pirate band that we could actually say they were pirate band. Because I mean, that's for sure. And they changed frequency for several reasons. One was maybe the overcrowding of the 41 meter band with international broadcasters, or a lot of more stations there. But I think a big reason why they changed frequency to below 7 megahertz, like 6850 to 7000, was partly interference, partly solar activity, and there's a lot of the 4 and 5 megahertz ones now because of probably of solar activity. Lower frequencies propagate more. Kenny Stadford. Will LED light bulbs cause noise on the AM frequencies? It depends on which ones you buy. So here, all the lighting that you have in my face and everywhere is LED bulbs, chosen carefully. I purchased at first 5 or 6 different brands, put them in, turned them on, looked at my radio, and I finally have brands that are actually pretty good, that have, I don't see any trace of anything on my shortwave spectrum when I turn them on. So the ones I'm using right now are, oh man, I forgot the brand. I know that there's a couple of Sylvania in here, but there's also Philips. Ones I'm using, most of them are Philips branded. And got no noise. But you got to be very careful when we're choosing LED bulbs or any lighting system. That's something that you might not think of as a shortwave listener. You know, we talk about noise all the time. When you go out there and you think, "Oh, I need new fixtures for my kitchen," you better be careful what you're going to choose, because that kitchen fixture can become hell for your radio. So, you know, you got to really, really make sure that you choose well. Anything that is small that uses these little electronic switching power supplies are killer for radios. A lot of lighting systems are actually real bad. Unfortunately, so if you live in your home, that's not too bad. But if you live in an apartment complex or condos, forget it. Your neighbors might have some of those crappy lighting systems. It's just killing your hobby. So you got to be very, very careful. For a very long time, I refused to have anything else than incandescent bulbs. But as the price of electricity and everything came up, I started thinking, okay, there must be out there some lighting systems that I can use or some bulbs that I can use that are not bad. And that's what happened. I went out and I purchased several brands of LED bulbs. I remember compact fluorescents, which I don't use anymore, but now I use really LED bulbs now. But I purchased several brands because I put the bulb in, turned it on, looked at my radio or listened to the radio, and it's like, okay, does that one make noise? I would put a little portable not far from the lamp. It's like, okay, does this make noise? Boop. Oh, noisy. Forget it. And one of the things that I did see is that Philips brand, almost everything from Philips seems to be super quiet compared to a lot of other brands. Take care, R. Dodd. Nice to have you on board. K2 ADC from New Jersey. Have a great night. Keegan is hearing 6754 Trenton military weather. I heard it yesterday. Is it here now? 754. Nope. This is weird. I'm just going to restart because there's something weird happening. But I think I'm hearing it on 6754. Upper sideband. Robert Pocorni. When using a wire, do you get better reception if the wire is higher in the air? There's kind of a minimum height in general, depending on the frequency you use. But it isn't super important. It depends on the frequency you're going to use and listen to. For reception, there's not that much of a difference. For transmission, it might actually impact a little more the radiation angle, the radiation of your signal in itself. So let me just go here. 6754. There's something interesting here. Oh, okay, now I understand. Yeah, there we go. I was trying to figure out why something was wrong. So I'm hearing it's very weak here. Yesterday was stronger, but I'm hearing Trenton military. Oh, that is a killer thing, Steve. Touch lamps are amazing noise generators. I still remember when I got my Kenwood R5000. My mom had purchased 2 of these new touch lamps, and she was super happy. She put them in the bedroom, and it was like, oh, beautiful lamps. But you don't know, and you don't think about these things at some point. And I remember she plugged it in, and I got a buzzing at every, I don't know how many kilohertz. And I remember noticing, oh darn, it's the touch lamps. I would unplug them, and the buzz would go away. And I remember I said, look, Mom, is it really that important that you have the touch capability on the lamps? And she looked at me, she says, no, I just like the lamps. I said, okay, how about I open up the lamp base and I just put a switch, a manual switch, click, click, click. Would that be okay? And she said, yeah, as long as you don't mess them up and they still work. And I said, no, they're still going to work. The only thing I'm going to do is remove that circuit and put a on-off switch. And I did that, fixed the thing. And my mom was happy at the time because she had her beautiful lamps. I was happy because that crappy, noisy touch thing was like, forget it. And, but man, I remember the buzzing coming out of those. Comac Z1976 getting Trenton at S8 out of S9. Rufus Newt, inverted transformers and CFLs were brutal. Newer used them. LEDs now and no noise. There were some compact fluorescents that were less noisy than others, but the LEDs I use now are really good. That's really, really nice for that. Graham Taplin, 6754 upper sideband with very minimal signal in Milton, Ontario. Yeah, I might be jumping over you at that place, but here it's very weak also. Terry Cook, stay safe. See you Friday. Archer's Alley Crafter's Kitchen, I think, is a little far back in the live show. DSP-40 is an amazing device for what it is. As a notch filter, it's killer. And for SSB, yeah, pretty nice, honestly. And I always was happy to have it just for one thing, the audio amplifier. You plug the speaker in there, and you got an audio amplifier for your portable radios. Tom DXer says plasma TVs are horrifically noisy. Yep, they're known to be very noisy. Thank God they're almost gone. Steve says, I modified the ones I had to add a 1 kiloohm resistor between the wire and the frame because my ex didn't want to get rid of the lamps. Probably why she's an ex. Now that is the fun part. It's like we should have a book of radio guy stories, radio guys and girls stories. It's like, well, I met her one day and everything was all right until she bought these touch lamps. And I said, hey, honey, those touch lamps are making noise. You mind if we change them? It's like, no, we're not changing them. Well, I think we're not right for each other. Why? Something's wrong. We just don't get along. I thought everything was great. Yeah, well, no, there's something I don't feel, AKA, I'm not going to do any ham radio anymore. There are things like that. Sometimes it's like, it's just, and probably everybody out there, there's an awkward thing about a radio, and amateur radio and stuff. When you meet someone, be it somebody's going to be a friend or somebody that might become your significant other or your wife or your husband or whatever. How long did a question that I have for you, for all of you married men out there and girls, how long did it take before you started talking radio to her or him? I don't think that came up the first night. Well, yes, I'm Jim from Milwaukee, and I am an amateur radio operator, And of course, I was talking to New Zealand last night. I imagine the stare was like, okay, so you're a geek. It's like, oh man. RJDA Dakota. Nice to have you here. Steve, you're creating noise in our relationship. I'm sorry, but I can't hear you through the noise. So it's going to have to be over now. Oh, God. RJ Dakota says, I've checked and I found that Samsung refrigerators and some types of washers put a lot of noise. Yep. I noticed noise here from my dishwasher when it works. When it's off, when I'm not doing anything, it's okay. But when it works, I see some little spikes and different things. So I just turn it on when I'm not listening to the radio. Well, it gives us an idea, Kamag Z76, of because so there are different ways we can give out a signal report. So you could say, well, from 1 out of 10, I'm getting that signal 8 out of 10. I tend to talk about, so for me, when you say S8 or S9, is S units, like on a meter, which would be a different way of reporting it. For me, it would be more of, the signal is S8, S7 to S9 on the S meter would give me an idea of how strong it is. Here, you're probably referring to more as signal strength, 8 out of 9 or something. If you're reporting that you're looking at an S meter, a needle or whatever, and it's S8 out of S9, you don't have to report it as of a reference. So, I get a signal S5. So right now I'm looking at my SDR, and I'm getting Trenton Military at peaks it's S7, but that's in the meter. I have a meter because a regular signal strength meter on the radio is S1 to S9. Then you have the red part, which is in dB, which is S9 plus 10 plus 20 plus 40 plus 60, which is a way of reporting. So the important thing I hear is when you report a signal, you're listening to something. I'm having fun with my alligator clip tonight. When you're reporting a signal strength, as long as we understand how strong it is, S8 out of S9, if I refer to that as being strong, which is what I understand here, cool. As long as we understand what do you mean. So, you could say it's, I'm hearing it 7 out of 10. Oh, that's good. I have an idea of how strong you're getting it, basically, Shady Power says, I have an AC adapter, and sometimes if I charge my iPhone or iPad, it makes noise. Yeah, it's like the Samsung charger. When it's just plugged in doing nothing, I don't see much of any problem in general. But if I plug my Samsung phone to charge, that's when I see differences in some of the. But the Samsung charger for my Galaxy S9 Plus is very quiet compared. It's quieter. I would say it's quieter than an iPhone charger that I had. So I don't know. It depends on these. They're generally not that bad, actually. Yarabamba, what about cell phone chargers? Are they a source of interference? It depends on the brand, depends on the phone's power supply. Like I just said, I've got two here that are working. One for my old Galaxy S7, and one for my Galaxy S9 Plus. I see a little something, but they're relatively quiet in general. But some cell phone chargers might be more noisy than others. Old Radio Man says, started talking radio with the girlfriend right away. It was evident when she came over and saw my radios. Been married many years and she is a ham now. So that's the perfect relationship. It's like, yeah, well, let's work our way into marriage and ham radio. That's nice. That is nice, though. Rufus Newt, I lived in my basement for 16 years, then I got rid of the noise. Oh, God. Keegan had incandescents in the kitchen. 2 fixtures switched to CFLs towards the late 2000s. After those failed, switched to fluorescents with their own fixtures, and those failed, switched to LEDs. Fishkoff, what is the fanciest top-of-the-line radio you have to listen to shortwave? It's hard to say. The fanciest top-of-the-line radio I have to listen is would technically be my ICOM ICRD 500. I mean, it's a big gun radio. It's doing nothing right now, but it's a big gun radio. And top of the line is very difficult to talk about because of top of the line, means how well or how it's one of the best radios out there. But sometimes top of the line goes a little, the hayside because you have something else that appeals more. I never thought that I would do this, but I mean, I got a $2,000 ICOM ICR 8500 doing nothing because there's a $200 SDR play device that took its place that I actually prefer now. And that in terms of reception are so close that I prefer to have that waterfall and the visuals aspects of all of this than use the ICOM, even though the ICOM is really nice. Lee Thompson, whatever happened to the Simpo signal reports? Well, it still exists. Still exists. Simpo is still a kind of a standard. For those that don't know what Simpo is, it's a way to report signals, how strong a signal was and how strong you were receiving. So in the 80s, I would write reception reports. So Simpo means signal, interference, noise, propagation, the overall reading. It goes from 1 to 5. So a perfect signal would be 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. A crappy signal would be 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So it is interesting because it's a mix of all the different aspects of what could interfere with a shortwave signal that is represented in 5 numbers. So signal could be real strong. So let's put that in today's perspective of noisy environments. So the signal could be 4, which is good, but the interference could be 1. That means it's so intense that it makes that 4 signal now bad. Noise is atmospheric noise, so the one from propagation itself or the sun. So say I've got 4, I've got interference of 1 at home. I've got, now the shortwave bands probably are at say 3. Propagation, the fading and all of it, let's put it at 3. Well, then it's an overall signal. So it's 4, 1, 3, 3. Roughly, the signal could be 2, which is not great. I understand that code, but honestly, one of the things that happens today is a lot of the people that are at shortwave stations everywhere are not, the people back then, when you listen in the 70s or 80s, a lot of the announcers, a lot of the people at the stations kind of had a background of all of this, and they knew what it meant. And even though today I still hear the simple code read on different mailbag shows, um, I think more and more there's less and less people that know what that exactly means. That's why I always say to everybody, you know what? Instead of using that simple code, why don't you just explain in your own words how clear the signal was, which would, for a lot of people, probably help more than having these weird numbers in their face. But there's still a lot of people using it. I mean, DXers use it, obviously, because when I listen to Radio Romania, they're reading a letter. Jack in the United States is heard a signal with a simple code of 34444 and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, I hear it on the Radio Havana Cuba mailbag show. But I think today, giving a personal account of how the reception was might actually be probably more of a practical use. I mean, it's very difficult. When we say sometimes there's a distance between the listener and the broadcaster in the way things work. Listen to a mailbag show today and hear these people reading letters from listeners, and then they have, well, here is James from Nebraska, United States, and he's listening in with a Texan PL680 and a MLA30 loop antenna, and you're like, yeah, that presenter reading that letter was like, what the hell's that? What's a PL680 and what the hell's an MLA30? It's kind of interesting. There's also a side to the hobby that's kind of interesting, because we got to be careful in our technical way of being too technical. Remember that people that decide if a shortwave station lives or not, they have no idea what a MLA30 is. They have no idea they don't even understand why you're using 85 feet of wire to listen to the station. They're in a mode where it's like broadcasting, general broadcasting, and you should be using just your portable radio, and they don't understand why you need 80 feet of wire to listen to the radio station rather than the telescopic and all of that. And I'm afraid some of it is that some of the aspects of our listening hobby has become too far apart in some way. It was normal in 1975, but we are faced with people in 2020 that are not in that. They don't understand that. So we got to be careful with that, because sometimes I'm listening to the mailbag shows, and I'm like, I almost hear the announcer, the presenter of the show, kind of in its voice tone, wondering what the hell is that thing, and why do they need that to listen to us? It's a complex thing, I can tell you that. RJ Dakota, yeah, a lot of the new receivers today have signal to noise ratio instead. So how do you read these? Well, so there's one number that's the strength of the signal, one number that is a baseline. So basically, a signal to noise ratio is it's telling you how strong a signal is compared to a baseline, which is the general noise and the general environment around you. The best way to read it is just to understand is that the more there is a difference between both numbers, the better the signal will be. because usually what happens is you get, say you get 73 over 35. You get another signal that is, 50 over 40. What you'll understand here is that 50 over 40, that difference is so small. It means that the signal is almost in the noise. Where that 73 over 30 means that signal is real strong compared to the noise floor. That's pretty much a simplified way of reading a signal to noise ratio on these new radios. Lauren Smith, nice to have you here. KF6 GRE in Washington State. I just out of Crafter's Kitchen. Just bought a frog on Facebook Marketplace. Less than half of what they are asking on eBay. Cool. Congratulations. Rufus Newt, that was a great explanation. Was not always clear on the SIMPO. Yeah. I mean, it could be sometimes cryptic, kind of cryptic in code, But it's an overall, it does represent, when you understand what it is, it represents well the overall aspect of what you must have been experiencing when you know what it is. I mean, if I'm going to tune Brent is hearing 13840 Radio New Zealand. So here it's okay. I mean, peaks at S9 right now. Should be better in about an hour. Usually an hour, 11 p.m. is stronger here. So Radio New Zealand is on 13840. I get an S9, a little more than S9 sometimes. But of course, there's noise over the signal and everything. How would I refer to Radio New Zealand's SIMPO code right now? I would say the signal is 3. Because S9, it's like an average signal. S9, so it's 3. Interference. Interference is kind of 3. Noise, the propagation noise itself, it doesn't seem to have that much of that. So I'll put 4. Propagation. Well, lots of fading here. So it's a 3 or a 2. But that means that at the end, the overall rating of it will be around 3. That means it's just an average signal. It means it's not the best you could have. It was an average signal here. And that would be what I would actually put there. So it kind of gives an overall idea of the signal. But like I said, I think it's much better. If I would write Radio New Zealand, I might put the SIMPO code, but I would say, your signal was, average, but they have a lot of local noise, so it was a little difficult to copy what you were saying because of that. Plus, there was a lot of fading from the propagation of shortwave signals. Made it a little harder, but I could still hear some of the programming. It all depends. Some are technical, some are okay with more like down-to-earth talk. I tend to try to be down-to-earth because as our hobby is evolving, as we're going ahead, I'm understanding that at the other side, the people that are at the station are not tech savvy like the people that were at the station in the 60s or the 70s. I mean, in 1978, a simple code and would say something to people there. Especially because they would often send that report to the technical staff. In 2020, it's not the same. In 2020, it's very different. You're addressing yourself at people that are broadcasters. They're hoping you're listening to the program, and they have very little knowledge of exactly what shortwave is all about. Look at, I'm still sad at KBS World Radio from South Korea. Not understanding that 15575 is the crappiest choice for North America. That we almost never hear them. They yet spend millions of dollars a year broadcasting on that frequency. And when you listen, because I've listened, I have the KBS app. I listen to KBS World Radio on my phone because if I want to listen to them, is the only way I listen to them. You know what? You listen to the Mailbag Show. It's obvious that one, the announcers are clueless as to why you don't hear them. And then I don't know how many times they say, well, send that to the technical department. Well, you got a crappy technical department because they have no idea that it's not working. What the hell are you doing? You don't want to change frequency or what? It's like you're broadcasting for nothing. Might as well stop. That's why I think maybe we should write to them and let them know, you know what? Why don't you purchase Relay on WRMI in English? At least we'll hear you. We don't hear one thing. And you know what? If I write to them and I tell them, well, I hear you, only on the app because it doesn't work on shortwave, you know what they're going to do? They're not going to say, oh, we got to change frequency. They're going to say, oh, let's just be on the internet because, look, he's hearing us on the internet. That's not what we want. It's, some of the broadcasters are simply, it's discouraging. It's like, really, you're not doing anything. It's like, do you really want to be heard somewhere or what? Mike WDX50. Have a good night, my friend, and see you Friday. So, Jeff Fields, I get noise from the power adapters on my Fire TV stick and Roku. Yeah, these devices have, switching power supplies. It's crazy. Rifleman 336, back from Mini D Expedition. Got some interesting things. Cool. Can one ID 6039 kilohertz. 6040 was radio. You are listening to Radio Romania. Radio Romania was in French from 01 to 02 UT. That's Radio Romania. 6040 and 7375. RJ Dakota, thank you for the information. That does clearly things up for these signal meters. Cool, Rifleman 336. Congratulations for that call sign registration. WA8121SWL. Cool. It's fun. It's just fun to have these, Gaëtan Bellil, bonsoir, bonne nuit. Fais attention à toi. And Vianney Arsenault, nice to have you on board from the eastern part de la province de Québec. Lots of signals on 40 meters tonight. Well, the band is, I'm on 49 for the international broadcast band, and there's a lot of stuff in there. 7200. Let's check out 40 meters. Oh, yeah, a lot of signals there. There's a lot of activity on the bands lately, just with the fact that there's a lot of people at home. So, pretty crazy. There's really a lot of activity all over the place. I can tell you that. Comexy76, do you know if it's possible to run SDR Uno in server mode on my desktop so I can run a copy on my laptop as a client and listen that way? I'm not sure the software is made to do that. What I do personally is run a remote desktop. So what I do is I run it on a remote desktop. That works pretty well. But I don't think it's made for the server mode. Lee Thompson, back in the 60s, Popular Electronics magazine gave out as shortwave listening calls. I was WPEHHFC Lee. Cool. John Doe, Joe, what would it take for you to set up a Kiwi online receiver? Need a Canadian station on the Kiwi side. I would need just a Kiwi SDR. All the Kiwi SDR kit and fire, it will be ready to go. I'd put it on one of my I'd put it on one of the MLA30s here, and that's it. It's a Kiwi setup. All I need is a Kiwi setup, which is a receiver and a Raspberry Pi, technically. I have a lot of people that are asking me to have an online receiver here in Montreal. That would be very, very nice to put online. So maybe I would, because I mean, there's not a lot of stuff here in Quebec for listening online, for sure. Because I mean, there's a lot of Canadian stations, but there's not a lot of stations from here in the province of Quebec. Lauren Smith, cool, good audio apparently. Maybe it's because I'm further away from the microphone. That could be the reason for the clipping. Hey, Shelly, nice to have you on board from Pennsylvania. Take care, Brent. Stay safe. It's nice to have you here. Good night, Penniless Plantation. Always nice to have all the info here. Keegan's considering setting up an SDR to listen online from my location in Northwest Arkansas. Why not? Pretty cool. It's really pretty cool. Yeah, CamXZ76. That's what I do. The only thing with remote desktop, it's if you use it for a long period of time, there's a delay that actually slowly gets from the visual and the sound. So what you need to do is restart the remote desktop. But that's the way I've been using mine. I've been, when I go outside in the backyard or I go in another part of the home, I run one of my laptops and I run it as a remote desktop with the computer that has the SDR here. And in general, works pretty well. In general, it works pretty well. So, my first call sign that I had was from Radio Budapest, and I used that as my main shortwave call sign for a long time. These things, let's face it, okay? Because, I mean, there was a perfectly good question that happened on the group, on the shortwave group. Somebody posted, I think it was probably Rifleman 336, somebody posted, hey, I got my shortwave call sign. And the question was like, so what does it do? Here's the thing. These are registries of shortwave signs. And, you see that there were some in the past that don't exist anymore. There's that one, which is SWARL. In 5 years, it could maybe not exist anymore. But we still have our call signs. And what I'll say here is whatever call sign you've been assigned by whatever service, consider that your call sign. I did that with my shortwave Radio Budapest Shortwave Club call sign, which was Victor Echo 1214/RB for Radio Budapest. And for a very long time, and I knew that these call signs existed, but for a very long time, I did not ask for one because I was like, I was assigned Victor Echo 1214 Radio Bravo, and that is my call sign. I got a diploma here from Radio Budapest from the 80s with that call sign. And for me, and even today, I have my shortwave call sign from SWARL, which is Victor Echo 2029 SWL. I've got it. I got it because everybody was getting it, and I thought, well, let's get one. But honestly, in my heart, my call sign, my shortwave listener call sign, is Victor Echo 1214 / Radio Bravo. It's the first one I was assigned with by Radio Budapest. It's the first call sign for a listener I've ever had. And for me, that is my honest, real call sign. And, honestly, what I would do if I would write a station or an amateur radio operator, I would probably put first VE1214RB. And underneath would probably put SWARL VE2029 SWL. Simple as that. But I think the first one you have, because these are not anything official. It's not like an amateur call sign. An amateur call sign is official because you're registered with the government agency that talks about and that is related to radio transmissions and radio frequencies. That's an official call. A shortwave call, there's no official shortwave call website. And over the years, anybody that's been listening for a long time, over the years, there were many clubs, many different organizations and magazines that would ask you to get a call sign from them. But that's nothing official. You're a listener, but there's nothing official. You're not assigned a call by a government or anything. And that's why I think the first one you have in your life should probably be the official call sign that you use, and be happy that you got it and it's yours and it's like that. I think that would be the, Sergio Cordero, buenas noches. Yarabamba 5045 4055. Sorry, did I say 5045? 4055. Yeah, I'm not even hearing much of it right now. It's very, very weak. Very weak. Long time since I had it for, really strong. Roughest Newt, VE3055 is WL. Bobby Burgess, WA5107 is WL. Lawrence Smith, WA7300 is WL. Lee Thompson, my car's a 1957, just said SWL W8. That's fine. It's a call. If that's the one you had, that's the one you have. Perfect. Matt, MDK2, WA0080 SWL. So, and, there's something special about it. I mean, for those that don't know, is Radio Budapest in the 80s when Bulgaria was a communist country, had the Radio Budapest Shortwave Club. To be a member, you had to send a certain amount of reception reports every single month for a year. And if you would send reports every month, and I mean it was like 4 or 6 reports per month, every month for 1 year, you would officially be in the Radio Budapest Shortwave Club. And that's what I did. I sent them the required amount of reception reports. And I still remember, I went to the mailbox and it was a tube, a cardboard tube. And I was like, oh, wow, cardboard tube from Radio Budapest. And when I opened it, it was and I still have it somewhere here in the frame. Radio Budapest Shortwave Club, official member. And I was official member from Canada. And they had given me my official Radio Budapest call sign, VE1214/RB. And I mean, that was a lot of work. You had to do many reception reports over a year's time to be there. And I was so happy. And you would get these really big, huge QSL cards from the Radio Budapest Shortwave Club that were really, really nice. They were like big, one size of a letter QSL cards every year, once a year at the end of the year. And it was really nice, And I mean, that for me was always the official call sign that I've used over a year for shortwave listening, Vianney says VA2 VMA, but you probably like listen frequencies like me and probably more than me. One thing I noticed is that shortwave SWL listeners have knowledge that I don't have, and that's the beauty of that. Well, I mean, old-timer shortwave listeners have their shortwave listener knowledge. And shortwave listening has an aspect to hobby that is not necessarily something from amateur radio also. There's a lot of the shortwave listening hobby that is in a different direction, and you might not be aware. I think there's a lot of hams so a lot of hams came from shortwave listening, but a lot of hams that got their ticket were not necessarily shortwave listeners, and so that side of thing means that a lot of hams, and as an example, when my sister was a ham in the 80s, she never did shortwave listening. She knew she knew shortwave existed and stuff. Because of me, she knew that there were stations and stuff, but her knowledge of the shortwave side of the world of HF was extremely limited. She was really in the knowledge of ham radio. And even then, today because back then I didn't know anything. And most of my listening was a hit or miss situation. Hey, I'm hearing something in French here and whatever that is. But, and I didn't know propagation and stuff. But today, when I actually use the knowledge I have today, because when I get into a hobby, I'm kind of a really heavy guy. I want to learn everything about a hobby. I'll read all the books, and I was a geek. I would go to I still remember at 16 going down to Rivière des Prairies, a river. There was a park, and hanging in a summer day near the river, not with a portable radio, because I didn't have any portable radios to bring with me for that at that moment, but I had my shortwave book that I would read from A to Z 20 times and try to understand propagation and stuff. Today, when I compare my knowledge that I have, I understand one thing is that my knowledge of course, my knowledge of shortwave is there as a shortwave listener, but I also understand that part of my knowledge is better on even ham subjects and propagation and stuff than what she probably understood back then. So it's kind of interesting. I would love to have a moment, go back in time and talk radio with her when she was a ham with the knowledge I have today. It would have been interesting to see that. Arthur's Alleycrafter's Kitchen. I have my Radio Budapest Shortwave Club certificate in a box with my QSLs. I need to dig it out. I forgot my call sign. William Helms, my first one was when my friend let me work is 3000 watt Hotfoot CB. My handle and the last 3 digits of my social security number. RJ Dakota. I mean, it's a big hobby. It's a big hobby, and it has different sides to it. And I like to dabble in every little aspects of the hobby. So what's nice here, and I think what brings a lot of hams here, is because of my interest in many different aspects of the hobby. Even hams learn things because I dabble in sides of their own hobby as a listener that they don't necessarily understand that well also. On the VHF UHF channel, I don't know how many times people said there's ham radio satellites out there. Yeah, that's what you're hearing in that video. AO92 or whatever. There's amateur radio satellites that you could work. Absolutely. But I'm on the listener side. I listen to them. Vianney says, I can say I'm both, but the beauty is somebody listen frequencies as always something to learn, and that's why I'm on the radio since I was 16 years old. You're 69 now. Wow. But it's always kind of really cool, I mean, radio hobby is the radio hobby, and I mean, we're all here for one reason. I mean, all of this as a side to it. Tibanfas, nice to have you on board. Santos from Brazil. It's a real pleasure watching your programs on YouTube. Lots of info to bring back good memories of my old DX times. Thank you. Happy to be here. And I mean, if you've been listening for a long time, we all have a certain nostalgia of older days of shortwave also, RJ Dakota started listening to shortwave in the early 70s, actually recommended by my science teacher because I was already interested in medium wave radio DX. I still remember going in class in geography. I had geography class, and I showed to my geography teacher because I was really good. Because I knew the world. I was a shortwave listener. I knew where every country was, And I remember I showed my teacher letters that I had received from around the world. And man, he was so amazed at that. He didn't even know it existed, that there was this, Steve, I'm here only for the ranting. Okay, it's ranting time. Why the hell? Oh, man. Vianney says, learning here, definitely. I agree with you. I feel that people here like listening frequencies. And, my knowledge has limits, and my knowledge has holes. There are places where I'm not very confident. But there's people in the chat room and there's people that follow me that they have that knowledge of all of this, And we're here, I think, all together to learn from all of that. When I say something that I'm wrong, there's people in chat room saying, you're wrong, this is how it goes, which is fine. I'm happy to have and be corrected. Because the last thing I want to do here is talk about something that I am giving the wrong information. This is not this, and this is, we're trying to be the best, and I always have every day that one comment of somebody somewhere saying, well, shortwave's dead, what the hell, I listen on the internet. Well, be happy and listen on the internet if you wish. But you know what? I was listening to Radio New Zealand now. It's kind of a million times more cool to know that it's a radio wave coming from halfway around the world on my radio in antenna than just, going on an app on my phone and saying, well, here's New Zealand. It's different. And I guess it's not something that you can you can tell anyone. When somebody is minded in that way, look, you don't understand. You can't understand. how we feel about an invisible radio signal somewhere getting from 10,000 miles away into my radio is just so cool, you know? Rifleman says, "What is a good shortwave station frequency lookup resource online?" So, look, if you're talking about shortwave radio stations and the international broadcast band, I use a list which is this, and which I find to be pretty much always the most accurate list, which is the EIBI space list. And lately it's been updated like every 2 or 3 days. It has the list of every international broadcast by time and by frequency that you can search when you hear something. Well, X80Xer is from the United States, and he likes to have ranting and Alex Jones. So, the 5G and COVID thing, I need my tinfoil hat. But I'm protected. I got an MLE-30 that sucks the airwaves from the air. So that's the, man. Jenny Esteno says, never pretended to know everything. This is the reason why I count all of the interested people, and everyone can teach. Well, nobody knows everything, and nobody is perfect, and nobody is, we all have our knowledge, our way of thinking. That's the world. If we all would be the same, it would be boring. Honestly, the world would be very boring. It's nice to have different knowledge, different people. There are things that we have to think about, the possibility of, certain areas, but, it's, Keegan says, thank you. One of my friends showed me shortwave radio. He showed me how to control the minds of people. And I'm getting my ham ticket because I want to make sure that I can zap everybody's brain with my ham license. Oh, man. Shortwave is mind control. In some way, Lawrence Smith, you know what? Because, so many broadcasters using shortwave to give a viewpoint, giving propaganda of some way of thinking. That's why in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, it was so strong. Giving that viewpoint of communism from the East Bloc and capitalism from the Western Front, and the American way of life and the Soviet way of life. It was some kind of a mind control, if you want, for shortwave. It was that telling people that who's perfect and who's fantastic, ETI TV received a $10 shortwave converter from eBay. Just works perfect. Okay. They can take care. It happens, Shitty Power. I know. RJ Dakota says, still always find something interesting on the radio. I agree with you about how you're receiving a real radio signal from far away, not something online. It's kind of cheating. It depends where you are. I mean, let's face it. Just thinking about it, the internet is pretty fantastic. The fact that you guys, hundreds, thousands of kilometers or miles away from me, are seeing me here, are sharing our knowledge, talking and tuning the bands. let's face it, this is absolutely amazing. And we got to understand that there is still some amazement that you're listening to a radio station via internet, because it is amazing that the internet is bringing us that. And I think we can't forget that. I mean, for a lot of people, that is amazing. But us, we're reunited here because of another thing, is that for us, radio waves are amazing. And we find that so cool that with our radios and an antenna, we're receiving that invisible signal from somewhere else, you know. Ruffleman 336, thanks for the resource and your Alex Jones imitation. That is hilarious. Mark Alford, nice to have you on board from the Pacific Northwest, Vancouver Island. Anita Junjig, nice to have you here. Oh, absolutely. VNA says, I can say here on your show, it's one of the best places where we can share our knowledge. Absolutely. Absolutely. Aaron Smith, what is my dream guitar? I already have my dream guitar. I have a Fender Stratocaster. I have it. Look, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you. Here we go. It's full of dust because I haven't played in a long time, but here it is. Fender. This has been my Fender guitar. That is my dream guitar. It's my Fender Stratocaster. Like Keegan says, WWCR would have a new show on the schedule called the Jill Jones Show. Oh, man. Next show is Friday, Anita. Friday. Tony Turtle, let's have you here. Teeter on the mind. How is Alec Crafter's Kitchen? Jill, when you do Alex Jones, it's like when Silvio de Michael Corleone expression for Tony Soprano to crack him up. It never fails. You know. Rufus Newt been sucking the bad airwaves for almost a year. Oh, man. Crazy. Pretty crazy. RJ Dakota, the internet is indeed fascinating and amazing. It can bring you almost everything. Absolutely. I never thought that it would have, that I would be doing this today. I never thought. And I mean, when I started listening to shortwave, imagine you guys, when I started listening to shortwave in 1982, I had a Commodore VIC-20 computer. And yes, technology was going fast, but put you guys back in 1982. Any of you would think that sometime in your lifetime, you'd have some guy from Canada live on video from his home? And I mean, let's face it, we have the capability of having a TV studio in our homes today. Something that in the 80s would have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you would have had the cheap stuff. And you just, I never would have thought that I would, when I was 13, be doing a shortwave live show on something called the internet that would have hundreds of people watching and thousands of people watching after a week or two. And that I could be making even a living out of this. I was looking at my VIC-20 and I thought, man, this is cool, amazing technology, but this, I never thought. I would never have thought of that. I can tell you that. Matt, what year was it made? 1982. 1988. It's a Fender from 1988. Bought it brand new when I actually paid for my first guitar lessons back then. And boy, was I happy to learn to play. I wanted to learn to play. I wanted to be a big rock star. You know, when somebody says, "Oh, you're the rock star of shortwave," it's like, yeah, but I want to, yeah, okay. I wanted to be a big rock star, you know? That's why I go at karaoke. It brings that little, you know, that little side of me, my little, I don't know, fantasy artist side of me, you know. T-Bone Fest says, when listening to a radio station over the internet, if delay is too high for me, it starts sounding pre-recorded and not fun. Well, you know, LSWUK guitar sample. Man. Rob says, this is the best radio channel and live radio show on YouTube and Facebook group. Thank you, Joe, friends, and of course, Mr. Paul. You know. But you know, Yarabamba, let's be fair with WebSDRs, okay? Let's be fair with WebSDRs. If you can't hear a station, so for example, I like to use WebSDRs a lot, like the Kiwi SDRs. I like to use them because of being able to verify and see what you can hear in one part of the world that I don't hear, or see in Europe, what's the propagation in Europe and what stations are my hearing in Europe and different frequencies. It's kind of nice. It's kind of nice. And you know, I am a computer guy, so I kind of like the internet and computers also. So it's still tuning a radio. It's just that you're tuning a radio that streams that information to your computer via the internet. But there's a lot of stuff that is interesting to listen to on WebSDRs. And there's a lot of stations around the world that you'll never, ever hear in your location. You know, one of the stations I never heard more than just the interval signal in a very weak way, KNLS in Alaska. I heard the interval signal. Yeah, okay, that's cool. But I'll never heard a program. I mean, that doesn't work, doesn't propagate here at all. But I've tuned a Japanese SDR, a Chinese, a Hong Kong SDR for the only purpose of being in the target area where I could hear KNLS Alaska. Things like that are kind of cool. So, you know, you got to be careful. If you're listening to a same broadcast that you could hear at home on a Kiwi SDR, I understand the concept of cheating. But if it's for the purpose of listening to something that you'll never really hear, or just examining how the bands are so different in Asia, in Europe, in Africa. Because when you tune these, it's obvious that you see there's a huge difference from continent to continent listening to the broadcasts. It's crazy. That was some brand new house, the shortwave band rock. Oh, man. You know. The PlayStation's interval signals on guitar. Oh, man. The internet is fun for that today. I mean, you can easily know what you're listening to. It's something I would have loved, you know, when I started listening to shortwave. You had outdated schedules. Basically, what we had was schedules from 3 months ago on a paper, and half of it was not right. And you know, today is just crazy, you know. Keegan, I used the tone on the musical keyboard close to the tones beeps on. Well, you can actually tune your musical instruments with WWV. It does have a A above middle C note. I don't remember what minute though. I don't remember what was the minute. Vianney says, you know what? I have checked my antenna here with WebSDR on the internet. It's fun to check that for ham radio operators, and we can check the propagation at the same time. And you know what? If I would send out a signal on the ham bands, I would probably tune, say I want to contact Europe, I'd tune a European SDR to see if I can hear myself, honestly. And I know that if I can hear myself over there on that SDR, well, I'm making it to Europe. Basically, you can actually check that. I should learn the radio RSA interval signal. Oh man. Mark Elford, I'm in Get ASDR. I moved into Tesla Car and my home-based shortwave signals are screaming noisy. You need a good antenna because even if even if you get an SDR, you need a good antenna to remove that noise. Keegan says, use the paper cup to mimic the pulse sound of WWV and WWVH. Oh, man. William Helms, my brother gave me one from a guy who really botched the fretboard. Plays beautifully, but looks like a giant puppy fibbing on it. LSW UK says, I'm going to record 2 minutes of shortwave on my Texan 380 next to the Mekong River. We'll upload to the Facebook group. Cool. So, hey guys, we've been on for 2 hours and 46. I'm starting to get a little tired. We're going to say goodbye for tonight. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. It was a lot of fun to be here. One of those nights, you get to the show and you're like, oh man, I'm a little tired. I'm not sure I'm gonna be there for long. And you continue on and you just have fun and you just have great guys like you all that help me, have fun also. Because doing the show, you got to have fun doing the show if you want to have a show. And so you guys help me have fun with the show at the same time. And I want to thank all of you for being here, being great fans. Next show is Friday. So this coming Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. That's 1 p.m. Pacific. That's 20 hours Universal Time. Hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Hope you enjoy what I do, the videos that I try to post. Stay safe, everybody. And take care. Okay? It's very important. And we'll be back Friday with another shortwave show from the world capital of shortwave, Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Bye, everybody. Stay safe. Love you all.